We are all MIHL Showcase on this episode of the pod. This is my favorite event of the year. It doesn't get any better than this. I've got a couple teams, players, games that I'm looking forward to the most. Plus, I got picks for all 50 games at the Showcase this weekend and a bunch more around this weekend's event. So hit the subscribe button and let's get into it. Okay, so the MIHL Showcase, I believe this is like the 24th year of the event, something crazy like that. It is easily the most competitive event of the season, probably the most scouted event of the season, and definitely the best atmosphere you'll see all season. It's just everything right about Michigan high school hockey. You hit the parking lot and it's packed wall to wall. People parking up on the curbs, up on the grass, just trying to squeeze in every little nook and cranny they can get into just to have a shorter walk inside. The entrance is just a revolving door of kids and hockey bags going in and out from sun up until way past sundown. Like that is hockey. Like you think back to your youth days and going to weekend tournaments with your parents and that type of stuff. That is the epitome of what the MIHL Showcase is. It really takes you back to that time and reminds you of the simpler times in our game, in being younger, being at those weekend tournaments, being in the hotels with your team, and that just that tournament atmosphere. One team over here warming up, another team over there knocking around a soccer ball, all while another team watches along the glass as two top 10 teams square off. So it's just an environment unlike any other in Michigan high school hockey. You got 22 of the top 25 ranked teams in the state set to be in attendance. 32 of the top 40 if you expand it past that. This is what the state playoffs should be. This is what the state tournament should look like. The best against the best, all under one roof, all at the same time. Not to mention, you've also got, I think, 3 of the top 5 teams from the state of Ohio. You got the number 6 ranked team from Wisconsin. And then you got a top 10 nationally ranked prep team in Lake Forest that's set to be in attendance too. So you can fight me on it if you want, but you're wrong if you think there's another event on the Michigan high school hockey calendar as good or better than the MIHL Showcase. So with all that, let's get into it. Let's talk some teams, some players, some games that I'm most looking forward to seeing. I did put out a blog on pdspicks.com late last night giving you one player from every team in action that you should pay attention to this weekend. Just one, only one, no more, just one player, and only one worth watching this weekend. So be sure to check that out on pdspicks.com. I made it real easy for all the scouts and fans in attendance to really key in on specific players, but just one player per team, I swear. Okay, so that's on the website if you want to check that out. Link is in the description as well. Let me give you a few of my personal picks that I'm kind of most interested in seeing, and I'll tell you why. Peter Sainen out of Detroit Catholic Central. Look, he is the best player on the best team in the state. And the last time I watched CC was at the Alphabet Showcase in early December. And Sainen was out of the lineup that night. So I definitely want to get a good look at him this weekend since I didn't get to catch him in action last time. So he's smooth, great skill set, dangerous off the rush and in zone. I haven't seen him since the MDHL season. So I'll be looking for him this weekend, among others, off that CC team. I mean, Bloink, Woloch, Leiter on the back end there. That D group in general is really solid. Nino Sui too, starting to figure it out at the high school level a little bit too, and it's an adjustment period I think for a lot of kids coming to the high school level. And I think there's a lot of instances where you get AAA kids and maybe even some high level AA kids who come in, make the jump to high school and think they're going to dominate and take over. And some of them struggle or don't quite adjust as quickly to the game as maybe they think they will. So I think you're really starting to see Suey um, connect the dots at this level, really starting to get comfortable playing at this level. And obviously with a new team and new systems and everything, really starting to get comfortable. He's got 11 of his 19 points have come in just the last 4 weeks. So like I said, really starting to heat up there and pick up momentum in the second half of the season coming out of winter break. Excuse me, coming out of winter break here. So, okay, Isaac Nelson out of Northville. I'm told this kid was in line to play for a BCHL team and got hurt back in the fall. So kind of an unfortunate missed opportunity there, right? But a former 7th-round draft pick of the Flint Firebirds in the OHL. I watched one shift of his a few weeks back and said, "Holy shit! Like he could be the best player in Michigan high school hockey right now, and very few know about it because he's only played 6 or 8 games so far this season." So I definitely want to see more there. I think him and Alex McCollum both on the back end there for Northville. What a luxury for Coach Ossenmacher to have this tandem. Case could be made that they're the 2 best defensemen in the state, and they're playing on the same team. So that'll be a fun watch. Nolan Bink out of Escanaba. I just love this Eskimos team. Have for a while now. Bink, to me, ends up with the most opportunities to make plays just because of the volume of puck touches he sees from the blue line. He's a great skater, smooth or smart distributor of the puck. One of, if not my most favorite defenseman in the junior class. Graham Johnson is super exciting up front for that team as well. He's an explosive goal scorer. And of course, I can't forget about Cully Hayes in net. That's a big 3 that you don't have anywhere else around the state. And all 3 of those guys should get a good look, I think, in March when we start looking at like Team Michigan. Which reminds me, if you haven't registered for that, please do. And I shared the link on my Instagram stories this week. If you think you're a top prospect in Michigan high school hockey, or you have aspirations of playing on beyond high school, the process really starts with Team Michigan. And as soon as I posted that, I immediately got comments back from naysayers on Instagram, and oh, that team is picked before tryouts even start. And you're wrong. You're flat out wrong. This is coming from a guy who's been in the room, witnessed the process, been a part of that evaluation process. You are wrong. There's plenty of politics elsewhere in our game and in our sport, I know, from all levels, from youth hockey all the way on up to the pros. And let's be honest, no system is completely flawless. But Team Michigan is one thing we've got going for us that is as close to all hands on deck as we get in Michigan high school hockey. So I'm not affiliated with it. I'm not a coach. I'm not a staff member. I'm just a guy who believes in that process. So take it from me. Anyway, back to the showcase here. Marquette, another UP team, obviously excited about. But what team are we going to get, though? The one that shut out Stevenson 2-0, or the one that got thumped by Hancock 6-1 last month? I believe it'll be a performance more reminiscent of the Stevenson game, as that's more their MO, that's their identity, playing fast, aggressive, in your face, no room to breathe with the puck there. Brody Sheldon leading the way. But 2 young prospects I'm super excited about. Seth Sandstrom, obviously, but Easton Ball as well. He's a 2010, scored 80 points in AAA last season with Fox, a point per game guy right now for the Sentinels. I think between him and Sandstrom, they could be a sweet duo to have in high school hockey for years to come. So excited to get eyes on Marquette there again. Sault Ste. Marie, it's not just UP teams, I swear. I'm excited about a lot of teams in action, but I do feel like they tend to be attention grabbers for me because I just don't get to see them as much as your downstate teams. Evan Kennedy, Nick Wood, they're having fantastic seasons. Blue Devils have really made their mark at this event last season for me personally. And I think a lot of those major players from last season's team will be back in action yet again this season. So will be cool to see maybe the progression and development that's happened there in the last 12 months. Grandville, maybe a bit surprising, but I still haven't seen Grandville in action yet. So I peeked in on their game against GRCC live on the pod a few weeks back, actually. But that's been it. So there's a lot of guys to pay attention to there, too. Bennett Eisma and Landon Smith, you've heard me talk about them a bunch this season. But I love guys like Lewis Gardine and Braden Vanderveen on the back end, too. Aiden Karras, his numbers are fantastic in net. Bulldogs, I think, have a pretty good draw this weekend, so it'll be a fun watch for Grandville there. Alpena, kind of in a similar vein as Grandville for me. You know, you've got Gavin Winterstein and Garrett Hamp. You know, they've become the usual suspects, similar to Eisma and Smith. A lot of people are aware of those guys and know what they're capable of. Pretty well known, I think, by coaches around the state. But I really like guys like Ethan Walker, Clark Weir, Brody Misiak. They don't have the big numbers, obviously, that Hamp and Winterstein do, but they've got really nice skill sets. They're still pretty young, still developing. Very curious to see kind of how they've grown as players since I saw them last, too. So let me take a minute here. We'll get into some key matchups, a couple matchups that jumped out to me that I'm excited about for various reasons. You know, they're not all top 10 matchups or anything like that, but intriguing matchups nonetheless. You know, Thursday, you got Liggett and Plymouth. That's a very intriguing game to me. You know, Liggett, I was looking them up earlier last week, and I was very surprised at how good they are defensively. Goals against average is super low, one of the lowest in the state. Obviously playing a good middle of the pack KLAA team. That'll be a good benchmark, I think, for both sides. Really great matchup. Sparta and Lumen Christi. Sparta has had some big explosive moments, some borderline holy shit games where they're pulling off some big wins. But then some other ones where some lower ranked teams have snuck up on them too. So Sparta has kind of been a little up and down this season. I'm expecting it to be up this weekend, obviously, with two good matchups and intriguing matchups. They'll have that offense for Sparta will have its hands full with a stout goaltender in net in Jacola for Lumen Christi. Lumen has pulled off a couple big wins in recent memory too. So that's, again, just kind of one I've got circled for Thursday in particular. Looking into Friday, Gabriel Richard, Forest Hill Central is pretty intriguing to me. RGR, I think I've mentioned them maybe even last week as we looked into the Chelsea Showcase. Turned a bit of a corner. You know, they've played a gauntlet of a schedule, and I think they're starting to reap the benefits of it now later in the season. This will be an intriguing matchup because Forest Hill Central is kind of cut from the same cloth. You know, they've taken some lumps and had to lick their wounds from big games and tough losses at the hands of teams like Stevenson, Hartland, Clarkston, things like that. So very similar resumes there squaring off on Friday morning. Cranbrook and Sault Ste. Marie, just heard me talk about Sault Ste. Marie. I think that's a great matchup for Cranbrook in particular. Heartland, East Grand Rapids is another one that could end up being the game of the weekend in terms of Michigan high school hockey. I know you got a lot of in-state teams taking on out-of-state teams, but in terms of in-state versus in-state, that may be one of, if not the most intriguing matchup with Hartland and EGR. Orchard Lake and Houghton later that same day is another in-state matchup that'll be super intriguing. Houghton gets out of the UP. How do they perform away from home and on the road? Fared pretty well, I think, in recent memory at the Showcase. Always tough matchups. You know, they drew Catholic Central last season. They get a draw here against Orchard Lake. Should be an interesting one there. As I look into Saturday, Clarkston and Alpena is a very intriguing matchup to me. Clarkston is hot, man. They've turned a bit of a corner as well. You know, I was talking about RGR. Clarkston's kind of in that same vein, starting to they've been playing good hockey all season. It's just the results are now starting to go their way a little bit more. I'd have them as the favorite here in a matchup with Alpena, but Wildcats are scrappy and they can muck it up with anyone and make that a pretty intriguing matchup, I think, too. So Calumet, I got Plymouth on here a second time. I think these are both intriguing matchups for Plymouth. Calumet, this is a weird matchup where I could see Calumet kind of outplaying, outworking, out forechecking, dominating some time of possession and things like that, and really being the aggressor in the matchup. But Plymouth being a team that just doesn't go away, some timely scoring, that could be closer than the experts think from the outside. I think Plymouth is skilled enough and opportunistic enough to score, capitalize on opportunities, and keep that to be a close game. Last one here, Escanaba and Trenton is kind of intriguing to me as well. You heard me talk about Escanaba a moment ago. Not as deep as Trenton, I don't think, but that top for top is going to be as good as anything up front for Trenton. And then obviously the two goaltenders could duel it out as well. You got fantastic netminders at both ends. So another just very intriguing matchup, I think, there. Not late. I think it's mid-afternoon there on Saturday. So I was debating, should we make some picks? I mean, 50 games is a lot, and I don't know. I didn't put anything out on the website. There's nothing on the website, anyways, in terms of picks or anything like that. But why the hell not? We'll get into some picks here, especially coming off of the Chelsea Showcase last weekend. I probably couldn't gloss over the MIHL Showcase without making a couple picks too. So. Quick recap of last week of 17-8 on my picks from the Chelsea Showcase. So not a bad showing. And my Hudsonville Eagles go 2-0 on the weekend. That was big for the boys. It was good to see Hudsonville come through in a big way on a big stage for them. You've heard me talk about them a couple times now on the pod, and yeah, big shout out to those guys for pulling it off. So making me look smarter than I am, I think. So. I appreciate it. All right, I'm going to rifle through these matchups pretty quick. Let me see if I can do. Here we go. Perfect. I'll do my best telestrating here, but don't laugh at my abilities too bad. Grosse Pointe South, Country Day. Country Day, I think, is a lot better than their record shows. And I like Rylan Crozier. I like Ryder Novak especially. He was one of those kids I called out in the blog. To watch this weekend. I'm going to go with Country Day here. Let's see here. We'll keep moving along. U of D and Saginaw Heritage. This is two teams who need wins in a bad way. Two programs that have experienced a lot of success in recent years, but have fallen on a bit of hard times, I guess, this season. It's been a bit of a challenge, new challenges for both programs there. U of D has shown an ability to pull off big wins, obviously, as they beat Trenton a couple weeks ago. Heritage, though, Logan Betcher may be the best kid on the ice in this matchup and is definitely one you're going to want to watch. It just feels like a U of D game to me. I'm going to go with the Cubs in that one. Where am I at? Rockford and Lakeland. Rockford, shout out to the boys there. Made me feel pretty stupid last week. I think I picked them to lose, and then they ended up mercying an opponent at the Chelsea Showcase. I think that's something along those lines. But Lakeland is a tough matchup here, though. I really like their duo in Nate Dell and Austin Scanlon, so I'm going to go with the Eagles here. Bay Reps and M1 United. As all of the Bay Reps games have been this season, really comes down to Tyler Boynton Fisher in net. Kid is a stud between the pipes and gives the Reps a chance in every single game. So it really comes down to is Charlie Price and company going to be able to produce enough offense to put the Reps away? I could go either way with this matchup. I'm going to take M1. They've started to put some things together, I think. That early out of the gate had lost a couple of games I might not have expected them to, but now they're starting to kind of sneak up and win some games I wasn't expecting them to either. So the pendulum kind of swinging back the other way for the Griffins. TC Central and Grand Rapids Christian. I'm going to go with Christian here. They got Braden Mellon in net, who's really turned it on. I think I got to double check this when I was doing research. I think he has the lowest goals, the best save percentage facing the most shots on goal this season, if that makes sense. So nobody has faced more shots than him with a better save percentage, I think is how I want to word that. Plus, you got the Basor kid. You've got Josh Hooper. I think it might just be a little too much for Traverse City Central there. But Central keeps games close. They've played 10 one-goal games this season. That's the most in the state. Crazy. So never count out the Trojans here. Liggett and Plymouth. I was just talking about this a minute ago. I'm going to go Plymouth. Where was I? This is another tough matchup. I think goes either way. You've got some playmakers on both sides of the puck here. With you got Gould, you got Stacy on one end, you got Warzeka, you got Adrian Clark. Ton of playmakers on the ice. This will be a sneaky, fun game to watch for those of you around Thursday. I'm going to lean Plymouth, but very easily could be wrong on this one. It's a coin flip because it'll be a great matchup. That's how so many of these matchups are too. That's why I love the MIHL Showcase, because you're going to get a ton of 1-goal, 2-goal games that are close and right down to the wire. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a team jump out to a 3-0 lead in the first period. And in most instances, you can mail it in. All right, this game's over. You peek back in on it 15 minutes later, and it's 3-3. It's just one of those events you can never count a team out. So Port Huron Northern and Forest Hills Northeastern. I'll be quick here with this one. I'm going to go Northeastern. I think just a couple more playmakers on that side of the puck there for the Bird Dogs than the Huskies. So Sparta and Lumen Christi, I had just talked about that. One of the matchups I kind of have circled on the weekend. Lumen has put some teams away I didn't expect them to, and in a pretty dominant, making a statement kind of way. Was it Liggett? They beat someone 6-1, and I was like, whoa, did not see that coming. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Lumen get a win here. But Sparta, I feel like they've performed very well on the big stage. You know, when it's a big matchup, the boys have a way of gearing up for it, getting ready. Obviously, the showcase is one of those stages. Sparta, I don't think has ever been to the MIHL Showcase. I don't expect there to be any shell shock. It's a pretty seasoned group that's been together for a long time. I think you're going to see Sparta's best foot forward in this showcase. I'm going to take them to get a bit of an upset win there over Lumen Christi to end Thursday night. Let me slide on over here to Friday. We got a whole long list of games. I think 21 games on Friday and 21 on Saturday, something like that. 3 rinks going constantly. You just bounce from rink to rink to rink. It's just the best. Opening things up, Grand Rapids Catholic Central takes on Cap City. This game is at like 7:30 in the morning. That's insane. I'm going to be there pretty early. I'm not making that puck drop. I'm sorry. But hopefully you can catch the back end of this one and see how it finishes, how it plays out. Tough spot for both teams. When it's a matchup like this where you're playing this early, both teams out of rhythm, out of schedule, anything could happen in this particular matchup. I'm going to lean Cap City here. Just with GRCC, one of those teams started out pretty hot, has kind of cooled off in the last couple weeks. Maybe coming back down, like I said, pendulum coming back to the water, finding its level, so to speak. I think that opens the door for Cap City to kind of capitalize and pounce on I'll say a struggling. That's not the right way to say it, but a GRCC team that's kind of reeling a little bit. Next one here, Alpena and Calumet. Another tough matchup. I love it for both teams. I'm going to take Alpena's playmakers to get it done in this particular matchup. Hamp, Winterstein, I think you can lean pretty heavily on those guys. Watch them produce, 2 or 3 goals, and that be the difference in a tough matchup here. Battle of the Villes up next. You got Northville taking on Grandville. Love this matchup. Grandville's offense very much going to put Northville's defense to the test, but I think that's a strength-on-strength matchup. So it'll be interesting to see what way the scales tip. I'm going to go with Grandville just because they got a little bit more offensive scoring depth. But like I said, two really big playmakers on the back end there for Northville that you're absolutely going to want to check out. Clarkston and Lake Forest. Lake Forest, I think it was Lake Forest that just beat Catholic Central last weekend. So a tough matchup for Clarkston. You're hoping to show well in this particular matchup. I'm going to lean Lake Forest here. That team out of Illinois. It falls under the prep teams, the prep category on my hockey rankings, and is a top 10, I think 7th in the country currently. I got Riverview, Gabriel Richard, and Forest Hill Central. Again, I mentioned this matchup kind of as one I'm focusing on. Initial leans, I think, RGR just because of kind of where they're at currently this season. But Forest Hill Central has played some teams tough in ways I didn't expect them to as well. I think this is an area where they can sneak out and steal a bit of a win. Get your best performances from your best players, and I think they can upend RGR. I don't know if that's technically an upset. They're both pretty evenly ranked. I think I've got them both in like 20-21 range on PDspicks.com. But nonetheless, as I'm looking at it right now, feels like a bit of an upset. So I'm gonna go with Forest Hill Central on that one. Salem and Escanaba up next. Salem, that top line is one you're going to want to watch. I mentioned in the blog between Dom Chappett, Carson Patel, and Nolan Kaminsky, there's something for everyone on that line. You got the straw that stirs the drink in Chappett. You got the facilitator in Patel, and then you got the finisher in Nolan Kaminsky. Like, it's the perfect recipe for a successful line there. I've mentioned on the pod, you see them at times absolutely excel and dominate, and other times you want just a little bit more from them, I think. So if we can find that consistency here at the showcase, and like I said, you want to put your best foot forward and put your best performance out there. Escanaba is going to make life tough on you to do that. I think Salem's top maybe a little bit better than Escanaba's in this particular matchup, but Escanaba is solid throughout. So I'm going to go with the consistency over the high end there. And I'm actually going to take Escanaba in this matchup here. So we'll go with the Eskimos. Okay, Howell and Toledo, St. Francis. I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew a lot about St. Francis, but Howell right now is on an absolute heater. Everything seems to be going their way, right? The buzzer-beating goal against Stevenson on Friday. If you didn't see that, Chad Patillo with a power play goal. Essentially, as time expires, there's no buzzer beaters in hockey, right? But I want to say there was a couple tenths of a second left on the clock when that hit the mesh. So everything's just kind of coming up Howell right now, and so I'm going to continue with that trend and take the Highlanders to get a win over an out-of-state opponent here in Toledo, St. Francis. Forest Hills Northeastern and the Bay Reps. This one feels like all reps to me. I'm gonna go with the Bay Reps in this particular matchup. I just don't know that Forest Hills Northeastern has an offensive answer for the Reps defense and obviously goaltending there in net. So Bay City and Traverse City Central, another intriguing matchup, another one that may very well come down to the goalies. Nash Leonard, I think, played pretty well here last season when Bay City participated in the showcase. Traverse City Central, again, I expect it to be a close game. As much as I'd like to tip it in favor of Central, I got to see them put some wins together before I start making picks in that direction. So I'm going to stick with Bay City here, and maybe the best looking logo on the graphics that I have so far. Look at those mean eyes peeking out through the. Looks great. Looks great. So, okay, Rockford and Hancock. This one seems like Hancock maybe pretty decisively, and I'm going to get in trouble for that, I know, because I counted out Rockford last week, as I mentioned a minute ago, and they made me look pretty stupid with a big win. So maybe they made me look stupid again here 2 weeks in a row, but Hancock particularly, Tevin Stukel, Brady Axford, Sinkowski as well. There's a lot of high-end guys there for Hancock that'll be tough to contain for Rockford. So I'm gonna lean with the Bulldogs. Port Huron Northern and Saginaw Heritage. I think Heritage is going to get a win here. Look, like Logan Betcher, I think Heritage only has 2 wins on the season, but make no mistake, Betcher is the real deal, and he is one of, I think back to how he looked at MHA in the fall. I look back on how he looked at the state finals last season. Maybe a 2 or a 3 win team, but Logan Betcher is every bit as good as any defenseman in the state and worth your time and attention. So be sure to tune in. And I think this is a spot where he can absolutely kind of take over the game and really dictate the outcome here. So I'm gonna go Heritage in this matchup. Grand Rapids Christian and Sparta. This would have been, I think, would have been one of those matchups you would have seen in the OKC had Sparta not departed, right? If Sparta was still in the OKC, we would have got this matchup. Anyways, will be an interesting game. Super competitive here. I think this is great top versus top type stuff. But ultimately though, I'm leaning GRC here. Just I can't shake like Josh Hooper's impact on the game, Brody Basor's impact on the game. Braden Mellon, I think, absolutely gives them a leg up in net in this matchup as well. So I'm going to go with the Eagles here in this one. Cranbrook and Sault Ste. Marie. I told you this is one I've got circled. I want to see. Very excited to see the Blue Devils in action. This is a great spot, great matchup for them. I think this is one similar. I was talking about a game a minute ago where I think Sault Ste. Marie can put the pressure on Cranbrook, keep them hemmed in for long periods of time. May even have like a 2-1, 3-1 lead later on in the game, but Cranbrook, through power play opportunities and timely scoring, is able to keep it close and keep it a game. Nick Timko is the real deal up front. Gianluca DeSalvo is a fantastic forward as well. They've got great goaltending. At one point was the best goaltending tandem in the state. Now I think that's tapered off a little bit, but the players still remain, right? They didn't forget how to play hockey in a month. So this is going to be a great matchup. I don't want to pick a winner because I just want to enjoy it. But what do I have here? I'll stick with it. I'm going to take the Cranes. Give me Cranbrook to get a win over Sault Ste. Marie there. Heartland and East Grand Rapids, another matchup. Super excited about. Heartland did they really just hang an 8 spot on Livonia Stevenson last night? When I tuned in, I think it was 4-3. So I was very surprised to see the final score there on Twitter or wherever it was that I happened to catch the final score. But Heartland, I think, is just humming on all cylinders and have been all season, really. So this is a tough spot for East. I think this is one where East can hang on a little bit, right? They get a big performance in net from Charlie Finch or something like that. He makes 30, 35, 40 saves, and it ends up being like a really weird 2-1 game type thing. But ultimately going to take the Eagles to prevail here with a win over EGR. Stevenson and Byron Center. I just mentioned Stevenson, and let me check this real quick because I think, did these two teams play earlier in the year? Stevenson and Byron Center. I'm going to look this up in real time just because I'm interested. They played last year. Stevenson went out to the west side and played Byron Center last year. Okay. They did not play this year. Okay. For whatever reason, time flies, I guess. I'm blurring 2 seasons into one. But nonetheless, some familiarity here too, especially with coaches going head to head and a lot of carryover in players. Braxton McKee on one side, Owen Hall on the other side. Both of those guys would have been in that matchup a year and a half ago, whenever it would have been. So a lot of familiarity in this particular matchup. Stevenson, bummed by that loss last night, especially in the fashion in which it was. But this is a spot, the Trenton Showcase, the MIHL Showcase, Stevenson typically performs well in. So I'm going to lean Stevenson here with maybe just a tad bit more depth in this particular matchup. But I should have had that one in my featured ones. I'm intrigued about that one. Getting eyes on Byron Center and seeing them take on a tough Stevenson team, that will be a good matchup. So Catholic Central and Flint Powers, this is the only in-state matchup Catholic Central drew at the MIHL Showcase, and it's a good one. You've seen Stevenson go toe-to-toe with CC at this event. You've seen Houghton last year go toe-to-toe with them. Heartland go toe-to-toe with CC at some of these types of events. Brighton, another one. They typically at the Alphabet Showcase. But so seeing Powers in this particular matchup, huge opportunity for them. If ever there was a year for Powers to play Catholic Central, this would be a good year to do it too, I think. Aiden Cook making a case to be the best player in the state, having a fantastic season. This particular Powers team has a ton of scoring depth. They're getting good goaltending in net too, which I didn't have on my bingo card going into the season, I suppose. I think they had at least one, maybe two graduating goalies last season, so I just didn't know what they had coming in. But they've gotten stellar goaltending in net as well. So if ever there was a time for Powers to take on CC, it's this year. I think they can play inspired hockey. I think they can keep it close. But ultimately, CC is just too much here. So going with the Shamrocks to stay undefeated against in-state opponents. Orchard Lake and Houghton, another intriguing matchup. I want to see what Houghton looks like. They last time they traveled downstate, played a pair of West Michigan teams. I watched them play against EGR and was a little bit bummed. I don't think that was their best performance, and maybe one they'd like to have back. But some of the games they've played since then, some of the wins they've accumulated since then, this team is very much for real. I don't doubt them in the least. This should be a very competitive game. And like I said, you want to see teams' best foot forward at this showcase. You're hoping for that here as well against Orchard Lake. But there's something about the Eaglets right now that they are just humming along, playing some really good hockey. So I'm going to stick with Orchard Lake here to get a win. Brighton and Notre Dame. Brighton's dropped a couple now in the month of January. I might have jinxed them. That might be my fault, Coach Kurt. I said I was pretty confident slotting them in at number 15 in the state and locking them in there, and that wasn't going to change. And then I think they dropped maybe 3 or 4 games in a row, or 3 of 5 or something like that. It's been a bit of a skid, and unfortunately, I mean, Notre Dame is a super tough draw here, on par with Catholic Central. Basically, if you want an in-state comp, I believe Notre Dame and Catholic Central went to overtime last month. So if you want to look at this as kind of a Brighton versus a faux Detroit Catholic Central, that doesn't bode well. So I'm going to go with Notre Dame here to get a win over Brighton. Trenton and Marquette, another great matchup. Love it. Finally got the new Sentinels logo in the system, so I got that. I like it so much. I'm going to take the Sentinels to get a win over the host team, Trenton. That would be a bit of an upset there, I think. But nonetheless, Marquette is starting to heat up too. So, Brother Rice and St. Edwards, great logo from St. Edwards, by the way. Very giving off Green Bay Packers vibes, and I know nobody in Michigan wants to hear this, but I'm a bit of a closet Packers fan, so it's cool to see. I don't know, something about that logo. I like it. So. Rice here. This is a good matchup for them. I think Rice is starting to play a lot better hockey too. When I saw them at the showcase, they got handled pretty good, I think, when I saw them at the Alphabet Showcase, excuse me. I thought Hartland very much dictated the game and handled business, but that wasn't a full strength Brother Rice team either. Missing some guys, I think injuries, illness, whatever it may be. I think a lot of those guys are back now, starting to get healthy, starting to get right. Roman Valaire has heated up. He's leading the team in scoring. So should be a fun watch here. I'm actually going with Brother Rice here to get a big win over an out-of-state opponent here. De La Salle and St. Ignatius close things out on Friday. St. Ignatius, again, I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about them. De La Salle in particular. This is a tough De La Salle team, and I don't know that I've been able to say that about De La Salle teams of the past. Always been a good team, always been a good program, but this team plays a little bit different, I think, than previous De La Salle teams. Forechecking their asses off, working gritty, hard in the corners, heavy on pucks. There's not a lot of sexy in this lineup, but there's damn sure some workhards and some plumbers and electricians in this bunch that like to just get shit done. So I think that bodes well for the Pilots in this particular matchup. Plus, you got Zolkowski, a huge safety net behind you if all else fails. He's been great in net as well. So I'm going to take the work cards to get one done here on Friday night. Let me slide over into our final games. We'll get into Saturday. 21 more games. I'll try and rifle through these. I'm spending way more time on these than I thought I was going to. I wanted to just rattle them off. Sault Ste. Marie, Hancock, Clarkston, GRCs. Like, I just wanted to rattle them off. But this is good. I like spending a little more time. We'll talk about a couple players off the cuff, teams, things like that. Way off script at this point, too, but that's okay. So, okay, Sault Ste. Marie and Northville. This is a great matchup, I think, for Sault Ste. Marie, where they can really thrive playing their style of hockey that I think might overwhelm Northville offensively a little bit. I could see the Northville front nine, top nine is probably the best way. I'm thinking front seven like football. But the top nine, I think here for Northville might struggle a little bit with the pressure applied from Sault Ste. Marie. So I'm actually going to go with the Blue Devils to get a win here on Saturday morning. Hancock and Bay City. I don't know if Bay City is going to have enough firepower to go toe-to-toe with the Stukels and Sinkowskis of the world. Nash Leonard will absolutely keep you in the game, right? But I'm going to take the Bulldogs offense to prevail in this particular matchup. Clarkston and Alpena, another great matchup. Love it for Alpena. They've drawn some big games this season. And I don't know, what was it? They played Hartland. Was it Hartland or something like that at the North-South Showcase? They've drawn some big games. This is another opportunity for them. I think they could have a strong showing against Clarkston. But ultimately, I love where this Clarkston Wolves team is. I almost said Alpena Wolves based on the logo, the Wildcats, obviously. But so I'm going to go with the Wolves here to get another W. It just seems like everything's going their way at the moment. So Clarkston. M1 United and GRCC. M1, I had mentioned, has been a little up and down this season. GRCC, to a degree, has been too, but it's been more consistent. They've been up for a month, down for a month, so to speak, if that's how you want to look at it. But I think this is a spot where GRCC, Jacob Aaron and net can thrive. If he can kind of stymie that Griffin's offense a little bit, I think GRCC is going to have a real good chance in this one. So I'm going to go with the Cougars to get a win. Calumet and Plymouth. This would be a bit of an upset, I think. I'm going to go with Plymouth over the Copper Kings. I love the way Calumet plays. They're one of the most fun teams to watch at the MIHL Showcase year in and year out. Last year had a bit of a down year. I think only entered the showcase with 3-4 wins. But still was a fantastic watch, exciting games, and just well-coached bunch, ton of great effort throughout the lineup. And I expect that again this season, and maybe even more talent than what they had last season as well. But something about this Plymouth team, just timely scoring, capitalizing on opportunities. I'll go with Plymouth here. Country Day and U of D. Country Day, again, in their first game that I was talking about, I think this is a team that's starting to put things together a little bit. And I don't question the effort of guys like Novak and Crozier. They've done a fantastic job in that system. So I'm actually going to take Country Day here to get a win over U of D. Houghton and Flint Powers. Powers, again, like I said, great opportunity to play against CC. This would be the previous night. You take what you experienced in that game, you apply it less than 24 hours later to another tough matchup in Houghton. Houghton obviously coming all the way downstate. This is a spot I'm actually going to take Powers to get it done with their top producers and top playmakers. I'm going to lean Chargers there. Where am I at? Liggett and Gabriel Richard. This would have been, I think, a Metro League matchup had RGR not departed for independent status this past offseason. But great matchup nonetheless. Huge opportunity for Liggett, I think, to kind of get a signature win, a top 25 win. But ultimately, like I've said on multiple occasions now, because RGR was at the Chelsea Showcase and now they're here at the MIHL Showcase. Great on them, by the way. to be at events like this and really make your mark on the Michigan high school hockey calendar. So, it's all RGR to me right now. I'm on a big Pioneer kick with where these guys are at right now this season. So give me the Pioneers. Lake Forest and Heartland. This is a good litmus test for Coach Rick Gadwa and Heartland to see where you could potentially stack up if and when Heartland and CC's paths cross come playoff time. Lake Forest, team that just beat Catholic Central. If you can compete with Lake Forest, if you can beat Lake Forest, very good measuring stick for how and where you could stack up against a potential CC matchup. On the other hand, I also think, even in defeat to Lake Forest, it's a learning opportunity for Heartland. So it's a win-win situation, in my opinion. You either win and you have a huge feather in your cap, and you've proved to yourselves and others that you can compete with Catholic Central, or you lick your wounds a little bit, you recover, you take it as a learning opportunity. It's not a loss; it's a learning opportunity, and you move forward from there. So. I'm going to take Lake Forest in this one. I think it's just too tough of a spot, but I do think you're going to see Heartland's best effort in this one. Where this team is at, especially coming off that Stevenson win last night, they're in a position to put their best on display Saturday afternoon, I guess. But ultimately, I just don't think it's quite enough, and I'm going to take Lake Forest in that one. But like I said, win-win in my book with a matchup like this. There's been a couple of those over the last couple of years. I think back on Houghton playing CC. It's a win-win. You're either the first in-state team to beat Catholic Central, or you compete well and prove to yourselves you're capable of playing at a high level, even in defeat. When I was with Stevenson, we played Culver Academy, and that was a win-win. Hey, if we shock the world and pull off a victory, great. If we just get our guys to play fast and compete against such a caliber of a team, that's a win too. So this particular matchup for Heartland feels a lot like those matchups as I reflect on the MIHL Showcase. We're getting towards the end here. Escanaba and Trenton. Great opportunity, I think, for Escanaba. They just don't quite have the same depth, I think, as Trenton up front, on the back end, things like that. I do think that's going to make a difference. Top for top, I think they can absolutely go toe-to-toe with Trenton, but eventually your third and fourth lines for the Trojans can kind of wear you down, wear you out, and also still capable of putting the puck in the net. So I think this is a tough spot for the Eskimos, and I'm going to take the host Trenton there to get a nice win to end their showcase, their event. Notre Dame and Catholic Central. This is a rematch. These two teams played just after Christmas. Catholic Central had gone out to Wisconsin and played 3 games out there, Notre Dame being one of those. I think Catholic Central won 2-1 in overtime. So obviously a super competitive matchup. Notre Dame's going to be chomping at the bit at the rematch. Catholic Central just dropped, like I said, dropped a game last week to Lake Forest. I don't think that's necessarily indicative of anything. You're playing some high-level, high-caliber, out-of-state opponents, Notre Dame being another example of that. I'm going to take Notre Dame to maybe get a little revenge and split the season series at 1 game apiece. So Notre Dame over Catholic Central there. Marquette and Cranbrook. Cranbrook's got 2 tough games. You're playing the grittiest, toughest, in-your-face style teams from the UP with the Sioux Friday night, and now Marquette. I think that's going to wear on you. And I took them to squeak out a win over Sault Ste. Marie. I don't know if you can do it 2 nights in a row. Give me Marquette in this one over Cranbrook. St. Ignatius and Stevenson. Again, not knowing a lot about St. Ignatius here, but Stevenson, especially on the heels of this week's game, last couple games not having gone their way with the loss to Heartland, the heartbreaker there to Howell as well. Maybe an opportunity this weekend to start feeling good about ourselves with a couple wins. I'm going to take Stevenson to get a win here over an good out-of-state St. Ignatius team. Forest Hill Central, Brighton, another. not a rematch, I don't think, but they did play in the Thanksgiving tournament together. Is that right? They didn't meet there, as I recall. Let me just confirm this in real time as I'm looking at my computer. Yeah, they didn't play. What was it? Brighton lost to Heartland. Forest Hills lost to Clarkston. Or no, I'm not going to do this in real time. Sorry for taking all the wind out of the sails on this podcast. Um, Nonetheless, here, good matchup that could have happened earlier in the season had the chips fell in the right order at the Thanksgiving Showcase. A good spot for Forest Hill Central, but a tough matchup here. Brighton is not going to make life easy on the Rangers, and I feel like um, Rangers struggle a little bit when they get punched in the mouth by some of these top teams, like Heartland, like Clarkston, like Stevenson, right? I'm going to go with Brighton here. A bit of a young, obviously a young Brighton team, but also kind of reeling a little bit. I had mentioned a couple losses they'd suffered in recent memory. Since I have it pulled up, what are we looking at here? They are 2-6 in their last 8 games. That's at all in 2025, so all in the month of January here. So things not quite going their way, but a nice win over Marquette last weekend. That's a big win, and then a competitive loss at the hands of Clarkston. Clarkston, I think, scored with like 2 seconds left in that one to pull out the win too. So Brighton in a similar boat, I think, as Stevenson, where maybe some of these games you're in it, you're competitive. It's just the ball's not bouncing your way. So puck isn't bouncing your way, I guess I should say. I'll keep moving here. Grandville and Salem. I like Grandville in this one. Salem's top guys are top guys just about anywhere, but Grandville has a little bit more depth, a little more consistency. I like their goaltending situation too, so I'm going to lean with the Bulldogs there in that matchup. East Grand Rapids and St. Edwards. I think these two teams played at the Showcase last year. Did they not? And EGR came out on top in a pretty dominant way. I should not be doing these things in real time. This is why I need to do more research ahead of time. I'm going to jump the gun a little bit on the podcast this week, but I wanted to get it out to you guys. Wanted to get it out to the people as quick as I could here, especially leading up to the Showcase. And if my computer would cooperate and get to the correct season, let me take a look at this real quick, just so I can fact check myself in real time. East Grand Rapids last season. Yeah, St. Edwards. Okay, they beat them 2-0. But that was not at the Showcase. That was at the North-South Showcase. Okay, that's why it stands out in my mind. Being in attendance at the North-South Showcase last season. Yeah, okay, so I was right. They did play last year. It just wasn't at the MIHL Showcase. Nonetheless, so these two teams collide again. I like where East is at this season. The returners are fantastic. New guys have come in and contributed. You got Coach Newton back on the bench and involved as well. I'm going to go with East over St. Edwards for the second year in a row. How about that? Getting down to it here, Byron Center and De La Salle. Great matchup. On paper, I think I'd take De La Salle, but there's just something about this particular matchup that screams Byron Center to me. So I'm going to take, Luke Philo, Braxton McKee, those types of guys to get it done in this matchup over De La Salle. Maybe steal one a little bit, but okay. Lumen Christie, Grosse Pointe South. This feels like a huge opportunity for Lumen to get a win, feel good about themselves. I think I took them to lose in the first matchup. So if you can split the weekend and go 1-1, that kind of a win here would kind of save your weekend a little bit, and you can head into the rest of the weekend and into next week feeling good after a victory. So I'll take Lumen. St. Francis and Orchard Lake. Again, I'm not going to give you a huge write-up on St. Francis, but I think Orchard Lake is really starting to play some good hockey. When they're on, they're great. But then when things start to not go their way, it can turn a little nuclear, and that's a little concerning. I think I mentioned the Catholic Central game on the podcast, where probably not their best foot forward, right? Maybe one of those games they'd like to have back. I think they just had another one. Maybe Cranbrook. They dropped a game maybe that I wouldn't have expected them to. Game gets away from you a little bit, and then a 2-goal deficit turns into 3, turns into 4 kind of thing. I think that was very much what happened with Catholic Central. And then, yeah, Cranbrook beat them 6-2 on Saturday. Another one that just kind of gets away from you a little bit, right? You're down 3-2, you're down 4-2, you're chasing it a little bit, and then very quickly turns snowballs on you. So let's hope. I'm hoping that doesn't happen here in a matchup against St. Francis, because I do think Orchard Lake, when they are on, are one of the toughest teams to beat in the state. So I'm going to take Orchard Lake here in the Eaglets to get a win. Howell and Brother Rice, great matchup here. Howell is just on an absolute heater right now. Super talented, super deep, great goaltending, tons of contributors. I wrote in the preview on pdspicks.com, you could sit down with 5 scouts and each scout single out a different kid on Howell for various reasons. He's got super great puck skills. He's a fantastic skater. The goalie is amazing, or, wow, this kid is super talented and he's only a freshman. He's an 09, so there's a ton of potential and promise. You could watch with 5 scouts and get 5 different opinions. I think this Howell team is that diverse and that deep, which makes for a very tough matchup for Brother Rice. So I'm going to take the Highlanders in this matchup. And then to close things out, Lakeland takes on Cap City, the final game of the showcase. Where do I want to go with this one? This is a sneak, as I'm looking at it now, and I didn't have a ton prepared, but as I'm thinking about, Lakeland's top guys, Scanlon, Dell, going up head to head with guys like Will Tucker and Chase Potter, Toby Perot on the back end, great goaltending in net, Sean Story, maybe he gets one, maybe he gets both at the showcase. Some of the goaltending things are yet to be determined, and I hate to speculate on some of that stuff too when you've got multiple goaltenders in rotation. So not knowing who's going to get starts in net and things like that. I initially highlighted Lakeland. I might walk that back. I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'm going to go Cap City, as long as I don't turn my mic off in the process. Let's go Cap City here. I'm a big Chase Potter fan. Excuse me. A big Chase Potter fan. I think he can get it done in a spot like this. Top for top, I think this is a very evenly matched game. But I like Chase Potter and company just a little bit more. So I'm gonna go with the Caps in this one. So, all right. Well, that was it for the showcase. Let me see if I can bring myself back to center here. What do I got to do? Let's go. Is that gonna work? There we go. All right. That was a lot. I gave you teams to watch, players to key in on, matchups you don't want to miss. Biggest weekend of the season is upon us, the MIHL Showcase. I'll be there. Will you? Like and subscribe. Connect with me on social media and talk about all of this and more. Can't wait. Skate hard. Have fun. See ya.